it's me, Kay. First, I wanted to recommend a book. It's called The Improbability Principle by David Hand. I'm finding that it's covering a lot of the things I've been thinking about recently. David Hand is a emeritus professor of mathematics and a senior research investigator at the Imperial College in London. So he's well credentialed, and they have some peer review information on the back. So he's a mathematician, and he gives a lay explanation as to why coincidences statistically happen all the time. So basically, the impossible actually happens all the time. It's a really easy read, especially if you want to use a scientific method to understand strange occurrences. Anyway, I watched a video recently. It was by Hemant Mehta, the Friendly Atheist, and he gave a list of some of the top moments in an atheist's deconversion process. It made me think of some of the top moments in my own deconversion. The biggest moment that I had in my own deconversion process was when I first realized that there was nobody else in my head. It was only me in there, no supernatural forces lording it over me, monitoring my every thought, trying to make sure I adhered to a strict code. And that's the way I lived my life for a very long time, since I was about 11. I really thought that there was somebody in my head, and that I had to beware of my every thought. I had been laying in my bed trying to fall asleep. My mind was running through all the things that I had been learning about apologetics and counter-apologetics. I had spent the last 3 weeks trying to find a good argument for the existence of God. I was trying to find deeper arguments for the apologetics I had anchored my life's ship to. And then for a moment, I allowed a thought. What if there is no God? What if there is no God? I let myself for a moment slip into the mindset that there is no God. And I knew that if it didn't work out for me, if it didn't make sense, if something happened, I wanted to pull out right away and say no, there is a God, and slip back into my Christian mindset. But for a moment I allowed that to be the case, just to see what would happen. I let go, and the room was just silent. And there was nobody in the room except for me. I know how lonely can be, and one of the reasons why I was driven to the church that I was a part of for 5 years, one of the things that drove me to that church in the first place was my depression and my feelings of being out of control and wanting to know my future. I had just graduated from high school, and I felt that my previous religious beliefs had been to my detriment. And so I was just looking for something. I really wanted something to anchor my ship to. But what I really needed was security. And after 5 years of building my life around God's existence and his active role in my life in the form of Jesus Christ, I had spent about 1.5 years of that time not being depressed. A big portion of that time was me feeling depressed or anxious about things that, not being able to overcome sin, and not being able to, change my mindset on certain things, that I just couldn't manage doing that. And I had felt very lonely during that time. And I didn't really, I guess loneliness and depression, it's a lot like, I heard someone say it's a lot like, and I agree with this, it's a lot like, not being able to see correctly until you get a good pair of glasses and the problem is fixed, more or less. You're not going to be able, you don't even recognize the fact that your world is blurry. And I think that until I was willing to take off my God goggles for a moment and step back and say, okay, is this true? I wasn't able to see clearly. I had attributed a lot of my depression to lack of repentance, and I was afraid that if I did step out of a belief from God, that my depression would come back tenfold. I was honestly convinced that God was the only thing holding my head above the water. But I am a very curious person, and I wanted to know what was true no matter what the consequences were for me. So I was willing to, like I said, step into that mindset for a moment and experiment with the idea. So I let go, and for that one moment in the dark, I ceased to feel lonely. I think part of me knew that a lot of my beliefs weren't on secure ground, especially for the last 3 years. But I think the part of me that felt lonely thought that it needed something to be in my head. I thought that in order for me to feel not lonely, I would need someone or something to know me through and through and know my every thought and be able to, know exactly what I needed. It's been about 3 months now, and although I have logical reasons for disbelieving God claims, I think that it's comforting to know that the emotional reasons why I kept with religion for so long doesn't have a hold on me anymore. So I'm glad you had the chance to look at my video. If you would like, please comment down below and let me know what was one of your biggest moments in your deconversion. Please be respectful of other people, especially those who are giving more personal stories. Don't attack the person, attack the ideas. If something does come up in the comments, please like and subscribe. Again, I hope that this video encouraged understanding and empathy.